Special place was an open field. It's kind of fun. All right. Who inspects fire escapes? Your code is very clear. The fire escapes shall be examined and tested by a design professional or others acceptable to the building official. But everybody out there thinks that primarily it's fire escape engineers. Architects can sign, is that correct? Design professional, is these two people covered? Registered in the state of Massachusetts? Whether they have experience or not, as long as they have a PE and as long as they're an architect, so you can get a landscape architect to sign off on a fire escape. Unless you don't want to, unless it's some sort of document that you can use as a checklist to help them focus on what the inspection is. They also say city officials inspect fire escapes. I get many calls that says, my city official was just here, he said he found one broken tread, he says, fix that one broken tread, and then I'll be okay. Can you tell me how to fix, how much to fix one tread? We try to tell them, listen, you need to call, you need to have the whole thing examined as the code. No, 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 and they hang up on us. Because who are they looking for? Doctors or witch doctors? They're calling for the witch doctors, right? So that happens all the time, guys. So they think you, because you every now and then say to them, hey, fix this tread, you should be all right. Okay? Fire escape inspectors. Well, let's figure out who those people are. In the city of Boston, if you have a G3 license, guess what you can do? You can inspect the fire escape, charge a fee. Fix the fire escape, charge a fee. Sign off on the fire escape, charge a fee. And if there's a permit involved, don't get one because they want a fee. So these people have been for the past 25 to 50 years. I'm one of them. I have that license, the G3 license. Been allowed to do the work of a structural engineer. So Fox in the hen house, guess what happened with this process over the past 25 to 50 years?
Chicken for dinner.
Every night, guaranteed. Right? So what happened? Yes, question.
Just a comment in the room. How many inspectors would allow a civil engineer to sign off? Put your hands up if anybody would allow a civil engineer.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of times you don't even see that document because you know how they send it in? They send it in under cloak and dagger. It shows up in the mail. You know who opens up the mail? Not you guys, but your right-hand woman. Usually a lot of you guys have a right-hand woman running the show. And when she gets it, what does she do with it? When she looks down for the seal, and there's a seal there, guess what she does with it? Puts it in the file, and does what? Closes the file, sticks it in the thing, and tells you in your ear. Tells you what? It's all done. That certificate came in. On this document that I'm proposing, you can't put that there until you do a final sign-off, because you either have to meet the engineer at the fire escape site to accept this final certificate, or he has to come in and present you the document because you've already gone to the site to sign off your permit. So there's some checks and balances coming in here. And if you're an inspector, can you repair it? And if you're repairing it, can you inspect it? This document doesn't let you.
Only if you work in the big day.
But in Boston, every day, and to not pull a permit, what's the main reason I use not to pull a permit? I'm doing a maintenance. I'm just giving it a paint job, and I may change one or two bolts. Got it? And so now a lot of cities outside of Boston, Chelsea, Arlington, Lowell, Everett, guess who has to sign off on the end? Structural engineer. They don't allow the G3 to wander out. G3s used to pull permits in all Massachusetts cities. You know what they're requesting now? A construction supervisor's license to pull a permit. And so a lot of these guys haven't wandered outside of Boston because you guys have made it a little bit more stringent for them, first of all, to pull a permit. So unless they sneak in and sneak out without a permit, this is what's happening, okay? Are you guys aware that, since I've been doing this for 10 years, that the International Fire Code, as of 2012, mandates that all fire escapes in the U.S. now must be examined every 5 years, and that prior to 2012, there was only a handful of states and or cities demanding a 5-year rule? You guys aware of that? So imagine 5 total states in all of the U.S. never certified their fire escapes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it ain't requiring a certification, don't go looking for trouble. And don't even get me started with load testing. You know how many times I've load tested fire escapes since 1971? It's in this hand and I still have fingers left over. Okay? You know who also is starting to kick in right now that's kind of eliminating you guys? Insurance companies now have caught on to this mess. You know what they want? You think they'll take a certificate on some of these buildings now? In the city of Chicago, I'll give you an example of one. Chicago Insurance, not Chicago, Philadelphia Insurance Company that does a lot of, they do buildings in 48 states. They now, in the city of Chicago, want to take an opinion affidavit. They want a load test. So in some cases, you guys are getting backup from, of all people, insurance companies that say, unless it's certified, we're not going to take it. So let's take a look at all the codes. Fire code, yes, question.
Why can't all this weight be on the owner of the building?
It is on the owner of the building.
Well, it seems that some of it's on our shoulders if we don't go out there and inspect it. I mean,
Again, if you make it a checklist item, see, the owners are expecting you to tell them that they need to inspect.
and why can't the owners tell us that it's done?
Yeah, that's why you need the checklist item. You need something that triggers that. So the fact of the matter is, it's not all owners want to get away from this requirement. They, believe it or not, a majority want this done, they just didn't know it was required. A lot of times you guys don't go out and check these because you don't have the staff, you don't have the money, they keep cutting your budgets. You just need to make it a checklist item. You're not going to create a task force. By the way, does everybody know that Boston collects $100 per fire escape as a registration? So when I have the certificate, you have to give it to the city of Boston, you got to give them $100. No, I'm sorry. Boston used to be $100, they're back to 50. Cambridge is $100. So how many fire escapes? You got 1,000 times 100, and so there's some fees that you can charge to accept the certificate. But by making it a checklist item, it becomes an automatic. So no matter
in the code.
Huh?
Almost there was something in the code.
There is. It says right there that all fire escapes must be load tested every 5 years.
The point that I'm trying to say, there's something in the code stating that the homeowner has to notify us with a certificate.
It's already in the code. It's not. It's the owner is responsible to have a CO, isn't it? The owner is responsible to have. Huh?
Talking about CO, and then there's also a certificate of inspection.
Correct. So these are all. When you buy real estate, you're charged with knowing all the codes that you know and don't know. If you don't know, it's shame on you because that's why you bought real estate. You're charged to have to know. So this code is not that you have to remind them every 5 years. This code says it's the owner's responsibility to make sure that their fire escape is looked at every 5 years. An owner doesn't come to you and say, hey, should I do my elevator? Every owner knows that the elevator is mandatory. Sprinklers, mandatory. Extinguishers, mandatory. They go there and check. They're supposed to do the same. But fire escapes is the bastard child of egress. You guys will let it go. The owners let it go. It's okay. We call it it's the perfect storm of stupidity. And all we have to do right now is just sort of come back in and how do we get this back going? And we're not going to, it took 75 years to screw this up. We're not going to fix it overnight. So you need to have a program that's going to be 3 to 5 years. You need to have a checklist. And the first step is permits. At the beginning of your permit process, write this down, make it a checklist item. You're not ordering a fire escape inspection. You're asking the owner for a copy of his mandatory 5-year inspection. He goes, I don't have one. Well, continue with the process of permit. Just say, well, I'll give you 3 to 5 days, 7 to 10 days. Otherwise, I have to shut that thing down. And even not to shut it down, because we're going to talk about the OSHA. You guys see the OSHA code here? Probably going to be on the next one. You can actually have scaffolding there in lieu of the fire escape if it's not certified. You can actually use scaffolding to keep the project going. Got it? But I want to show that the International Fire Code says, testing and certification, all exterior fire escape systems shall be examined and or tested. Does that mean you look at it and then you test it? When they say the word test, what do they mean, guys? What's the magic word that nobody likes to hear? Load test. Right? So examined or tested. That means load test. You haven't examined fire escape 25, 50, 75 years. Let's continue reading. The and or certified. What's certified mean? For structural adequacy. Every 5 years. Certified. So it's in either or. Load test or certified. Guess what Massachusetts grabbed on for 75 years? The magical word of certified. And if you read your Boston certificate, it says and an affidavit shall be submitted to the city official. That affidavit became the certification, but there was no checklist. So everybody kind of just started, yeah, it looks good to me from down below, give me my 500 bucks. So the fire escape and the NFPA says it best. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test. And by the way, I'm talking about load test, and at the end of this, I'm going to take out load test. I don't want you guys to think that this is a load test class. This is not about load test. It's the trump card I want you to put in the back of your pocket so that when a fire escape has not been properly maintained, has not been properly repaired, and you are pissed off with some engineer who's trying to jam a piece of paper down your throat, and you're obviously looking at it today and you say, this fire escape doesn't look so good. Guess what you're going to pull out of your pocket? That the code says you can, the NFPA says you can, and the IFC says you can. What do you pull out? You know what I'm saying? Because what's the next piece? So it's shown by load test or, see the big word, or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength, which means this fire escape has been refurbished, all its fasteners were changed out. There is no rust inside any of the internal connections on every piece of this component. Oh, by the way, the unknown, that crazy wall that it ties into, if you can't verify that through bolt into the building, guess what you have to put? A new through bolt into the building. Keep the original and put in a new one. If you have a fire escape in your town that's been fully refurbed, verify that 100% of all internal rust has been removed with the oversight of a structural engineer, and that all the connections into the building have been duplicated because you kept the original, you put a new one without disturbing the building, would you consider that other evidence of strength?
Yes.
Would you want a load test after that too?
No.
So that's all it is. So I'm telling you, we're going to talk about load test, but we're also going to tell you it's an alternative because every structure in the U.S. that has gone is 100 years old. Do you believe that every 25 to 35 years they change all the electrical on average? They change all the plumbing on average? They change all the windows on average? You know, properly maintained buildings. I'm just saying that there's, on average, there's going to be 1 or 2 swaps of some of the major things. The gas lines get swapped out, right? You guys believe that every 25 to 35 years, new siding, new roof, what do you call it? Boiler? Fire escapes. Never been refurbished. You go to a lot of your fire escapes, they all have square head bolts. You know when square head bolts were introduced? After rivets didn't work anymore. Because you know how you put in a rivet? Somebody's got to sit there and cook the rivet red hot. He's got to grab it, and if you watch Bugs Bunny cartoons, what do? The guy throws it up in the air, the other guy catches it in the thing, he sticks it in the hole, and one guy on one side, the other guy goes brrrr. So if you got rivets still in your city, guess how old that fire escape is? 75 to 100. If you got square head bolts, you're 50 to 75 years old. If you got hex heads, you're 25 to 50. So that's how you can quickly age your fire escape. So majority, 90 to 95 of all your fire escapes have never been refurbished. Okay? Actually, can I go back?
Can you go back one slide, sir?
That was ahead of you.
Can you go
Sure.
back one slide?
Yep.
Because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but there's some caveats there.
Sure.
Let's go to the IBC.
Yep.
First, you have to go to the IEBC, which says you're allowed to legally continue to use it as long as it's been maintained.
Say again?
So you can't jump right to the IBC. You have to go first through the IEBC, because I've run into a couple of this that says it is allowed to legally continue to be used as long as it's been maintained.
Right.
So it's been maintained, so you get a certification, and I get a fee to go in and do it, which we do. The problem is, they don't do the inspection, only and legally I'm required to take it in.
All right. I'm trying to slice that question. If anybody else wants to help out on this. So all fire escapes, on this class that we did in Everett, let me throw a couple things out there to you guys. IBC only applies to 3 families and up.
Over
3 families, correct? You guys know the IBC rule 1001.3 does not apply to a 2-family. But they said, but the IRC comes into play. Your mass code that we talked about on the class, he goes, should we use the IRC, which was a little general and vague, or should we use the mass building code that you must maintain your fire escapes in good order at all times? So in Everett, they said, you know, it's more powerful because we're trying to say, okay, you're walking into a two-family, what code do you use? The IBC or?
Table 110 specifically says fire escapes on the last category. So it doesn't say anything, it says fire escapes. Therefore, our mass amendments of fire escapes falls under table 110, which says they have to be certified. The problem is, some of the stuff you're saying doesn't apply because we don't have the authority to enforce it because it's maintained.
So the question is, how do you know it's maintained? What's your verification that
Because
it's
we
been
get
maintained?
certification from a PE who usually rubber stamps or whatever. And basically, what I do is if it says it needs to be painted and chipped, I give it back to them and says, well, I need a clean bill of health. But if I get that, even though I can look at it, and it has not been updated, let's say it doesn't even have rails, but it was built and it was approved at that time, I can't make them put rails.
Correct. I think we're covering two questions here. Let me answer this question because I've answered this before. So it's called lawfully non-conforming structure. I cannot upgrade any fire escape. You throw me at a fire escape, I cannot upgrade it to 42 inches high, rails, 4-inch spacing. I can't take 24s and make them 36. So the rule is, all fire escape systems must be maintained as of the date of installation. Now, as of the date of installation, they screwed it up. Now you need to fix it because I can't grandfather in anything that was illegal on the date of installation. Now, the only time you can take a fire escape that's on the outside and continue using a fire escape on the outside, but it does need an upgrade, change of use. Am I correct?
It depends if it falls into that category and is part of the means of egress.
Right, so it's a change of use. It opens up a can of worms, and whether or not it's going to stay outside or go inside, it's all determined. But believe me, if you don't utilize fire escapes correctly, you're going to be knocking down a lot of old, beautiful buildings because there's no room inside to put in two staircases when you got a nice, beautiful building with a central stair, a left wing and a right wing, and they both need to eat up space inside, okay, to make the egress requirement. So after you've exhausted all possibilities, just so you know, no new fire escapes. How many people know that? There's no new fire escapes on new construction.
That's not accurate.
That's not correct.
Okay, so, again, I'm not the guy, but this is what I get. So no, you can't build a fire escape on new construction?
On new construction, well, I'm sorry. New construction, no.
Right, so all new, so the code sometimes is misinterpreted out there. Say again?
Unless you get a variance.
Unless you get a variance, which says, you know, I need a fire escape on the back. Okay, so variances aside, any new construction, no new fire escape can ever be built on a new fire escape unless you get a variance. Right? Because not many people are going to apply for it. Number two is, you have a pre-existing structure, you can use fire escapes, okay, to satisfy the means of egress once you've exhausted all means of doing it inside. So far? Okay, so now with this, no ladders allowed. Okay, so if you're going to build a new fire escape, no ladders are allowed unless you get a variance because you have limited side yard space, whatever. So ladders can kind of come back in, spirals can kind of come back in, but variance only. Otherwise, full stairs. No going out windows. Now what do you need? That window must become a door, right? The fire escape, now are you a fire escape or an egress? Because if it's fire escape, it's 24 inches wide, 8 and 8 rise and run, all the way to the ground. It's a grade. If it's a means of egress now, 36 inches wide, 7-11, they may or may not need a cover. I mean, you're going to step into two areas. So far, so good? So just remember, guys, fire escapes are going to be around because they're going to save a lot of your old buildings as long as you've exhausted all means of putting it in. The new building, if you can use a fire escape to get some of these factories to come into compliance. And once you've done that, if you got an existing fire escape on the back that was a change of use, that fire escape may have to go, but a new fire escape can take its place. It just needs to have 42-inch rails, it must be wider, and whatever needs to be done. Anybody disagree? So we've done a lot of these classes, and this is actually information that I've learned from everybody in here that's basically corrected me or talked on this, okay? So the most important thing I want to state in here is how all the codes say the same. Fire escapes must be examined and or tested. The International Fire Code says that, the International Building Code says that, and the reason why I like other evidence of strength is because other evidence of strength really is the certification. But in the past, they've used opinions to give you a certification in the form of an affidavit with a disclaimer. We're trying to make it so that there's a checklist. A lot of states are adding a checklist because nobody ever came up with one. They created one, and all these states either do or do not apply this code. Some of them have adopted it into their checklist. So if you go to Oregon.gov, if you go to Seattle.gov, the checklist is part of their documentation. Otherwise, anybody who's going to fight you on these questions, tell them, don't fill this out. Don't fill out this document. but answer the questions on your letterhead, okay? So let's move on to this other piece. Technical report. Anybody familiar with the technical assistance report? This is the other. You know how you have the structure, the firescapes can be examined by a design professional or others acceptable to the building official. When you look at your code, you see the technical assistance means whenever you get into some new technology or some old technology and you're trying to find an engineer that knows what's going on, and there is none, and you really have to go to somebody who's in the trade of digging wells or whatever the thing may be, this allows you to basically find a qualified engineer, a specialist, a laboratory or fire safety specialty organization acceptable to the fire code or the fire code or the building code, and analyze the fire escape system and its properties and design, operation, and the use of the building. At the end, it also says, even though you got a specialist, you may still want to have that specialist reviewed by peer with a structural engineer stamp. So every now and then you get into a fire escape and somebody wants to be an other and inspect your fire escape, you can always say, okay, but as long as you get a structural engineer stamp on top of it. And have a peer review done by a structural engineer. Everybody clear on that? So it's design professional or others acceptable to the building official. This is what explains what others could be. So you can have a fire protection engineer coming in whose specialty is egress systems, and he may want to try and inspect the fire escape for you. You can say, I'll accept you outright, or can you please have your structural engineer or registered architect stamp your report to me? Got it? Questions on that? Anybody understand that? All right, does this fire escape pass or fail?
Fail.
Well, an engineer says that this fire escape only had 4 issues. So the report that was given on this said, fix these 4 things and I'll sign. When I went there to examine it, the entire fire escape was in a state of collapse. Did that engineer have a checklist to give back to the client? And you know who called me on this? Was it the owner or was it the secretary? It was the secretary. She goes, I don't believe this report. So I have to go out on that stupid thing all the time. Here's another one in Chicago. This is the entire report. This is all you get. And this is a failed report. I mean, all they wanted was a paint job on this fire escape. And this fire escape was in the state of collapse. And the only reason I went and got photographs, which I'll show you later, is because I said, okay, let me take a peek at it before I give you just a paint price. Because you already had 4 prices for paint, you just wanted to get 1 more. The terrible threes, $3,000, $13,000, $33,000. Guess what he was ready to sign off on? This is right here in Massachusetts. I went to look at a detention center. I walked up. This is in a facility for 17-year-old kids. As you walk towards it, how's it look? Needs a quick paint job? As soon as you look under it, what do you see? So if the sentence did get you. Now look at this. This is schools. This is all these different places that I've been inspected in Massachusetts and throughout the country, but this is the kind of stuff that if you let rust grow, a metallurgist in a lot of my expert cases say to grow a 1/4 inch of rust. So if you have a 1-inch piece of, a 1/4 inch piece of steel, it'll become 1 inch of rust. Anybody agree or disagree with that? That's the rule. So that's why rust jacks. It jacks 2 pieces. As soon as it starts rusting, it'll jack the 2 connections apart, rip the bolt or rip the weld. That's called rust jacking. If all of a sudden there's a connection that's open and water gets in there and it starts freezing up, what's it going to do? It's going to jack that apart. It's called ice jacking. Got it? So rust takes, you take a 1/4 inch of, to grow a 1/4 inch of rust, it needs 25 years of you leaving it alone. If you get a 1/2 inch of rust, you're looking at 25 to 50 years. And again, depending what side of the building you're on, you get a lot of sun, is that under a tree? But on average, it takes 25 years to grow 1/4 inch of rust from a piece of steel. Okay? So we looking at a lot more rust than that? Now, when we do these classes, and a lot of times we do a downtown walk around, it's so that you never get back on a fire escape again. You'll learn that you'll know enough about a fire escape from the ground, looking up 1 or 2 floors, opening up a window, opening up a door, and looking out to see whether it's been properly maintained or not. And you will start looking at these rust connections, and no longer looking at the surface rust on the fire escape and saying very quickly to them, get a paint job on it and get it certified. You say, as soon as you let the fire escapes rust that bad, that fire escapes have, the connections are all shut, because fire escapes, which we'll prove today, rust from the inside out, not from the outside in. Got it? But here's why you shouldn't go up your fire escapes, let your men go on fire escapes, because when we inspect, we have a 3-pound sledgehammer, and we do the ping pong test, and we ping the nose of a lot of these treads. After doing a visual inspection, we ping a lot of these treads. And that's for our safety and our protection. That is not a load test. That is a safety test. Do you guys carry around 3-pound hammers? So tell your men not to get on it. Everything that you need to know can be observed from down below, or from opening a window, opening up a door, and looking at the general fire escape, okay? The fire escape must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. If it hasn't been painted, can you write a violation? If you notice structural deficiencies, can you write a violation? So you got 2 reasons why to write a violation. Don't get on it, and here's the reason why.
Question on that?
Yes?
Is that repairable? If you go
Watch
back
this
and
first, I'll
look
answer
at
that question. Yeah. Watch.
I think that's it. Let's be down here so I don't get hurt. And what I'll do now is I have my red, and I'll highlight it in red. To say that this is an emergency life-threatening issue that
I'm like that guy with the rubber rod thing on the boat, you know. Look how bad that tread. Your guy will never see that going up or going down. And your guys don't carry around the hammers. All right? So the reason why we talk about that is just so that you understand that your job is to identify a violation so that a professional can come in and look at it correctly. When an architect or an engineer climb up a fire escape, they do a visual examination, they check all the treads from below before they go. But a lot of times, if you guys are coming out of the door, going down a set of stairs, and one of these treads is loose, and you come down with a foot on the right side and a foot on the left side, as soon as you hit that weak corner, guess what's going to happen to you? Your foot's going to go through the tread, the leg is going to lock up in the tread, and your body is going to keep falling forward. And where do you snap the knee? You snap the knee going forward or snap the knee going backwards? So what happens when you snap your knee going forward? You're done. I'm going to call you limpy from now on, because you've just basically reduced your capacity to 75%. You may walk again, but you're going to walk with a limp because you broke it the wrong way. You know, break your knee the opposite way, not forward. The snap is horrible. So guys, this is that fire escape in Chicago that the guy said, just give it a paint job. And I started grabbing bolts with my hands and I could rip out bolts. And this was reverse bracketed. It came from above with these rods. Look how bad this is. I did a fire escape examination on a tower, wall fan or water temp. Went and examined it. After I examined it, I broke all these treads. And they were training men as of the last training session. It was a week or 2 weeks ago. This is probably 5 years ago that I did this examination. But even the training towers for the fire departments in certain cities have rusty fire escapes that are falling apart inside and outside. This is the inside stair. You guys see all the rust? So imagine training for fire escapes. So you already fear fire escapes even during training, because look how bad it is. They shut it down right after I basically did that examination. Look how much rust is in there. 1/2 inch to 3/4 rust on the platform. This is over here, Chelsea, not here, up north in Chelsea, the soldiers' home. Fire escapes are all ready to collapse, so if the war didn't get you, the fire escape will. Trucks smash these things, cement trucks smash these things all the time. This is a fire escape that's been marked for repair. Housing authorities have fire escapes that are ready to just fall apart. This is the city hall. Anybody notice the city hall? Look at all the treads right there in that mid-level. Anybody see the missing treads? The fallen treads? And just so you know, that goes to the mayor's office up there. Think he'll use the fire escape ever? All right? So the question is, why aren't these people coming to you and saying, I got to fix my fire escape? Well, how many people walk up to you and say, I got a $25,000 to $35,000 problem? Let me tell you all about it. And like you said, there's no, the law is there, but but right now, there is no law saying there's a law saying you must do your sprinklers, but nobody has there's no reminder law. It says they know, if I have a building that has sprinklers, I have to inspect it. I have an elevator on it, I must inspect it. I have extinguishers exposed everywhere, I must inspect it. I have exit signs, I must inspect it. Guess what? Never got a tag in its entire life. Ever. Fire escapes have no tags. Yet it's one of the most critical things because it's made for self-evacuation, so it's an egress, and it's made for firemen to use to get in and fight the fire, so it's an ingress. And it doesn't need a tag. You're supposed to kind of look at it, and, oh, by the way, we've ignored it for 50 to 75 years. With no load testing, no refurbishments. And the biggest problem is inside the building. A lot of people don't realize, a lot of masonry, the veneer is non-structural. And it usually goes into 8 to 12 inches deep, and it goes into 2 courses of bricks or 3 courses of bricks behind that. So the veneer front is not structural. There's usually a ½ inch gap between the front veneer and the back dirty bricks or block wall. And guess what sometimes falls in that ½ inch for 50, 75 years? Water. Where does it come from? From the parapet wall, on the roof. And as it comes down and dribbles all over this fire escape, what does it do to the inside steel that has no sunlight, but it stays moist and wet and full of air? Guess what it does? So you look at this building and look at the steel outside the brick. Look how beautiful and thick it is. What happens on the inside though? Because of that ½ inch. And you know how you find out if it's bad? What do? You load test it. Everybody know what a good load test looks like when you pass? Anybody know what a good load test looks like when you fail? It's on the ground. And you know what the owner says to you when you put it on the ground? You broke my fire escape. Put it back up, So guys, just so you know, whenever this happens, and we've identified through what we call dragon tears or rusty tears, see all those big rusty spots? And sometimes you get to a building, there's a huge 5-foot dragon tear, rusty tear. That's usually an indication that there's something going on in the back. So should we blow out every one of these for $500 per connection? Or should we, for $50, leave this alone, let sleeping dogs lie, create a connection 5 to 8 inches away, put in a new Hilti epoxy bolt 3/4, and make a connector back to the bracket or back to the steel over here. So here's my through bolt, and an angle bracket comes back here and picks up this piece. So I've replaced the through bolt into the building. I haven't moved one brick. I got a 3/4 hole it's got an epoxy bolt 8 to 12 inches deep and pick up a new connection point. Do I have to show you how bad things are in there? Or should I just repair and seal so no more water is getting in here? Right? So now I got a new 3/4 bolt, Hilti, epoxy, or through bolted into the building with a plate on the inside. Will you allow me to certify it in lieu of a load test? Yep. And then if all the fasteners that used to be squares or riveted, they got all taken out, every gusset, every connection, every time 2 pieces of steel met that was major structural, we've opened it, we've removed all the rust, we've primed it, we've siliconed it with 50 to 60 year paintable silicone, and we've reconnected it with a new fastener. Can I certify it? Now if somebody comes in and says, oh, we only did a few, you know, some of these squares and these rivets still look damn tight and damn good, and they do a spot repair, what do you pull out? Load test. So if they did all the stairs, do I need to load test the stairs? But the platforms have the original connections. So when you pull out the load test, it's for the whole fire escape or a partial load test? It's a partial load test because it's called an integrated load test, because once you flipped out all the treads with brand new connectors, guess what you don't have to load test? The stairs. Who decides what gets load tested? You, the vendor, or the structural engineer watching the job from beginning to end? Who has to sign off at the end with a seal? So if the structural engineer, but the structural engineer decides if it gets load tested, or you or the fire official decide if it gets load tested. So who holds the load test card? Because if you remember correctly, the NFPA, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence and strength that the fire escape has adequate safety. So who gets to decide if the load test gets pulled into the equation? The The vendor, the structural engineer, the owner, or is it you? Who's the one that, if he's not satisfied, pulls the load test? So you have power, and so does the fire official, because you can say, I'll take the certificate, and the fire official can walk in because he has IFC and say, what? It ain't gonna be you guys on this fire escape in the middle of the night. This thing looks kind of crappy. I'm not satisfied. Can the fire official pull out the load test on their IFC? Got it? But they're relying on you guys because they want to start the volleyball league again, you know, because you guys need to play volleyball with them. But in the meantime, you got to fix fire escapes first because they're really pissed off about the fire escapes. You see look how bad the steel gets when it's in the darkness, and you feed it water every day. So a lot of times, fire escapes not only feed water back into your building, but from the roof. 50, 75 years ago, if you had a bad roof, what did it do to all your structure? And what was the sign? Rusty tears. Spitting out. There's another one. Look how rusted it got inside. And look how beautiful it is outside. Isn't it amazing? What's exposed to air, weather, and sun is in great condition. But what's buried behind the veneer, that you give it plenty of moisture and plenty of air, and you give it no sunlight, what happens to it? That's why load testing is needed. But if I refurbish it, and to satisfy you, I make sure that you're aware that to eliminate the unknown, because there's no process to x-ray a wall. So if we say, no, we're going to avoid you forcing the load test on us, we're going to put a new 3/4 bolt all the way through with a plate, or in our test drillings, we found that the masonry wall on the inside is solid, it's in good order, she will take Hiltis. And again, the engineer's telling you this, not the vendor. Will you accept that in lieu of a load test? So is this a load test class, or is this how do you avoid a load test class? And by the way, you keep it in your pocket, because I'm telling you, you're going to get some structural engineer, some crazy architect with 20, 30 years of knowledge, and he's going to try to jam down your throat that simple little document that says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. He'll call the mayor, he'll call the governor, he'll call everybody. So what do you pull out? What's your trump card? And if somebody from higher up calls you up, what are you forced to say? It's in the code. And it's not me that wants it also. It's the fire official. Let me connect you over to Marty. Because Marty's men are going to be on there. And we don't think this was an adequate job that was done. Got it? This is what through bolts look like coming in on a masonry building. So most through bolts are all on wood structures. Just so you guys know, all wood structures have through bolts that are usually buried inside between two by fours. And you know what is supposed to be there that a lot of times it's not? Sometimes they'll put a through bolt inside the wall, and guess what it's picking up? Only the sheathing. So what that means, the properly installed fire escape was supposed to somehow pick up the two studs on the inside. And if it's a sloppy job, it's still certifiable. They put it outside the sheetrock, and you see this big plate, usually 1/2 inch thick, and it goes 20 inches long. And it's a dirty job, and it's got the bolt on the inside so kids can scrape their fingers and stuff on it. So that's the dirty version. The correct version on a wood structure to put a through bolt inside is you basically, you block the inside with two 2x10s. You basically put a 2x10 up against the sheathing, and you nail it to the side. Put another 2x10 on top of that, and you nail it to the side. That way, when you come with your through bolt and the plate, you're picking up a properly blocked wall. It picks up this stud, and you can put your through bolt anywhere you want. Anybody have something different that they want to say? Rely. Otherwise, you're going to get some crafty guys that actually want to put a 3/4 through bolt through one of the studs. What happens when you do that? You know what I'm saying? They put this huge plate, and they search, and a lot of times they'll try to put it where the king jack is, and they'll drill a 3/4 down the middle of the king jack. So the proper way to lay a plate in there is between two studs. You got to put the blocking in there. Now you have 16 inches to go. Basically, you lay a plate in there. Usually 5 to 10 inches, 4 to 8, 1/2 inch thick, 3/4 bolt. Not on the inside, not on the outside, and you can't see it because it's buried inside the cavity of about 3.5 inches. Questions? Oh, this is This is great. This is in California. We refurbished an entire fire escape system in California, 10 stories, and the owner still wanted a load test. Even though we verified everything, the owner still wanted a load test. So even though the fire escape is fully refurbed, can you still order a load test? The answer is yes. Does it make common sense? Financial sense? No. It's either one, it's either or. You don't force both. But I want to make a point using this drawing. Do you guys see that in order for me to verify that connection into the building, I had to drill it with a 3/4 like multiple times? And then as the pictures before showed me, you know, I was going down with one of those little cameras to go basically see that the steel was all intact. Wouldn't it just make just as much sense for me to go 3 to 5 inches on that other side, put in 1 3/4, apply epoxy bolt, mechanically fasten it back to that with a clip of some kind, right? You want me to drill open steel, or do you want me to apply a new anchor? Which is more economical? This could cost $500 a whack. The other one's $50 a whack. So just so you know, the question about the wall has been answered. To eliminate the concern of the wall, it's an epoxy bolt. You duplicate the connection. You don't go investigate it, because there is some things you don't want to see when you open up a 50, 75, 100-year-old wall. Let sleeping dogs lie, okay? Because that's what it looks like when I go down with my little camera, right? This is fire escape proctology. You guys see anything of interest then? Can you decipher any of this? So should you go looking, or should you just say duplicate the connection, and that'll eliminate the load test? Got it? Can you see anything? Fire escape proctology, every 5 years. Okay, next. This is a fire escape that I normally would have here. This is the example. I got this out of Cambridge. And that fire escape was on a school, and kids used it every day to go to recess. Kindergarten to 8th grade. Who called me to change this fire escape out? Building inspector? Fire chief? The president of the school? Kids called me because they put together a petition? Or the maintenance guy said, dude, you see any paint on this? This is exactly the way I took it out of the building. And so what I did on this fire escape, I actually saved a portion of the top and I saved a portion of the bottom to use it as a, for a dog and pony show, like to show you guys what it looks like. So I have this actual fire escape, and I would bring it. When a typical 6-hour class, I would have it here for you guys to see what I took off the building that day. But what I also did onto it, I basically did everything wrong to it. So one side is properly repaired, the other side is I welded it, I bolted it, I left rust inside. I did everything that if you don't watch the people, what they do to make it pass, because then once you do this, you throw paint on it, and you guys can't see nothing. Got it? So it's a nice dog and show, to basically tell you what's right, what's wrong. Any more lead paint on it? Because what did the kids do every time they went down, every time they went back up? And they ran their little hands down the fire escape. Lead paint. They went to eat, spit in their mouth. Not a speck of paint left on this fire escape. So I did wrong. I welded the nose, kept the rust in there. Look at the square head bolt still there. So I kept this piece, and I still have it till this present day. And on bigger shows, I actually bring it here, so you guys can see. So that's us, and it used to be 4 feet wide, so I couldn't carry it around the 4 foot, so I basically shrunk it. I cut it in half, and I made it portable so I can bring it to shows. Got it? This is what it looks like the day I took it down. This is what we put back in there. So we made it go to the right side and down the side. Okay? And this is what every day for recess, twice a day, during fire drills. Okay? We're going to talk about OSHA. I'm sorry, this is the lead law. You guys know that fire escapes, anybody that's a renovator knows that you have to have an EPA renovator's license to work on the inside of a building. The EPA collects $300, tests you, and you have to keep paying the EPA. There's $37,500 fines. Anybody ever see one of those? Okay. Fire escapes on the outside older than 78 presumed to have lead, so no more welding.
Acknowledging that lax enforcement by the city could have contributed to the Back Bay fire. They claimed the lives of 2 firefighters. Welders working next door may have been working on the building's fire escape when they sparked the deadly fire. Fox Undercover revealed Wednesday that fire escape hadn't been inspected in 10 years, even though inspections are required every 5 years. Investigative reporter Mike Bodette digging up some new exclusive information tonight. Mike? We looked at the entire Beacon Street block where the fatal fire happened and discovered, just like 296 Beacon Street, most of the fire escapes there are overdue for inspections. It turns out the city doesn't have any mechanism in place to track building owners violating the rules and hold them accountable. Mayor Walsh is not happy.
Are you concerned that inspection wasn't done since 2004?
Of course I am, and it's something that, constantly every day it seems like something.
Wait, I did the thing with Hank Phillips Ryan in 2003.
We're looking at revamping a lot of
So,
procedures.
after a death, there's a big jump around, and then after that, everything goes back to,
The place where welders may have been working on the fire escape, and they sparked the inferno at 298 Beacon Street, a fire that killed Boston Fire Lieutenant Ed Walsh and firefighter Michael Kennedy. Records reveal that fire escape had not been inspected since 2004, even though state building code requires inspections every 5 years. So the fire escape should have been inspected in 2009 and then again this year, which raises a troubling question according to fire code expert Amy Cronin.
all right, so the key word in there is mechanism. You brought it up. What can we do? So here's the mechanism. You cannot start a fire escape task force. You must use what you already do that brings people to you for some reason. They come to you to pay taxes. They come to you to pull permits. They come to you to do something with that building. So, in order for you to start touching buildings in your city, and somebody is pulling a permit to change a light bulb, change a toilet, or do a roof, what's the first thing that is on your checklist as you get all the items from them, including their check? What do you ask for? But it doesn't stop the permit process. Write this down because you want to speak with your building commissioner to see if it's a good idea, even if you have to just write it in. What do you ask for? So, what do you ask for? What's the one thing you need?
Insurance and license.
No, you already have, that's to pull a permit. You want to ask for a copy of your fire escape affidavit. Are you ordering one or asking for a copy of one, which you should already be doing? So on the permit process, you just say, thanks for the check, thanks for your license numbers and all these other things, thanks for paying your water, tax bills and all this stuff. So you guys have another checklist. As soon as the tax people got onto your permit process, guess how many taxes got paid and overdue water bills got paid? Because they need to do this, they must do that. So just add us to that. And that is, you want to ask for a certificate at the end of a project or at the beginning of a project? So just say, I need a copy of your certification that you fire escape. Oh, I haven't done one of those ever. Great. Here's your permit. Because if you stop the money train, guess what's going to happen? So start it and give them a violation that says you've got 3 to 5 days to give me what? A certificate. Otherwise, we have to make another adjustment to make sure that you guys are not, you're not putting any of the tenants in danger, the workers in danger, or the firemen in danger if this fire escape is a problem. Got it? So that's the building department. So you guys add the checklist. What's the fire department going to add? Which is the simplest one to add. What's his final step, every fireman, to a building to get occupied?
Smoke, sir.
Smoke. All he does is he goes there and he signs off the smoke. If the smoke is good, sign off, and then what does he ask for a copy of? Doesn't order one, but he asks for a copy of. The fire escape affidavit. The guy says, I don't have one. So he still signs, he still lets them occupy, and what's he do with this incomplete? How does he close his file? Because the fireman wants to close his file. What does he put in his file so that allows him to close his file? Not a copy of the cert. He's going to say, refer to the building department. So that document now, in place of an affidavit, he sticks in his file, closes his file, you get a nice little piece that says, refer to you that building that is now being occupied with people and tenants doesn't have a fire escape affidavit. You deal with it now. He closes. How about housing, for Section 8 housing? What do they need in order to get people in there? No lead, I mean, there's a ton of rules, right, for them, right? Guess what they need to add to their list? Fire escape affidavit. What about the health department, when they basically vacate a building for rats, mold, this, that, and the other thing? Before they can allow anybody to go back in, what do they need? Verification that you have 2 means of egress, so it's a safe, we call it the Safe Structures Initiative. And who uses the Safe Structure Initiative? 4 departments use the Safe Structures Initiative. Okay, so checklist. So don't make a task force to go look for fire escapes. There's plenty of them that are gonna come looking to you if you just add it to the checklist, got it? Oh, OSHA. I was gonna click the next one, but what's OSHA say? And whoever gets help from OSHA, but OSHA's not helping you, and OSHA says, during repairs or alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes required by this subpart are available and the existing fire protections are maintained or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides the equal level of safety. What's that mean? You can get to a building, whether it's residential or commercial, and the fire escape is a train wreck, and you don't shut the building down. What do you order on that owner of the building or that vendor doing the repairs? On an occupied building and they're gutting the whole second floor, what do you order upon him so that he can keep working and not stop the gravy train? Scaffolding. And who has to accept this alternative means of egress? The vendor, the owner, or is it the fire in the building must go there and says, yep, you don't have to fix the fire escape at this time. Block all access from inside to the fire escape. Mark the fire escape on the outside so no fireman is going to mistakenly use it during a fire. And this new scaffolding that you're going to put in, not construction scaffolding, what do they have to put in? Staging that has what kind of stairs in it? Construction stairs or egress stairs? Egress stairs, meaning they're 36 inches wide, 7'11", properly installed and insured. Got it? So even OSHA is helping you out. Because is there any employees that can be in there during alterations and repairs that doesn't have two means of egress? This is what it looks like. This building's fire escape system is down. Guess what they installed? Second means of egress. Got it? Because the fire escape was a train wreck. This is a load test. This is what a load test looks like. We did this in Cambridge. It was staged. We purposely didn't finish the fire escape. We left some bolts behind so that we could perform a load test at no additional cost to the client because I just needed some video. So guess what? 7 guys, 7 in the morning till 7 at night, 50-pound sandbags. Look what happens when you have to put a concentrated load on a stair at least 300 pounds. You know how many bags that is? You ever try to stack 6 bags of sand straight up on a stair? You know what the tendency is? They want to cascade down the stairs. So, as you can see, it's a silly process, and it costs thousands of dollars. Most residential fire escape systems, 1 to 3 story, $3 to $5 grand for a load test. Most commercial or larger